In previous video, we learned promises and basic async and await. Now let's go one step deeper and understand how modern JS actually handles asynchronous code in a cleaner and professional way. So don't worry, this is just an addition to the last lecture. So as this topic is really complex, so let's understand this with the help of some more few examples. How do we write a async function? Like just write async, then function, and then the name of the function, like test over here. Then we start the curly braces as usual and return hello over here. So this is simply returning something, right? This is a async function. So what I will do is I will simply write console dot log, and here I am calling this test function. That's all, right? So a an async function always returns a promise. Like this is the first learning from here. Let's save it and run it. So this is returning something and this is a promise. You see the type is promise and it's hello, right? So async function always returns a promise. That is the first thing. Then we have a await keyword, right? Let's write another function get data. This is not a async function. This is a simple function we are using. And this one is returning a promise, right? Let's say it returns return new promise. That's how we write promise. And then uh, uh, the value gets stored over here in resolve, right? And then we are calling the arrow function over here, and then we use the curly braces, right? We are writing this now, and here we are setting a timeout. Let's set timeout. And how do we set timeout is we simply using a timeout function over here, then again the curly braces, and here we are using resolve. And you can write anything, right? If we are resolving a problem, data loaded. Let's use this for now. We are creating a new promise over here, right? And then we are setting a timeout method. And inside timeout method, we also need to set a timeout. Like here, suppose I am setting 2 seconds, right? Because we use milliseconds over here. So this is one promise we are returning in function get data, right? Suppose we have another function, and I am using async function start, right? And let's see, let's store the result in some variable. So here, if I am calling this function get data, I know this function is going to take some time, right? It's taking 2 seconds. It's not immediate. So then what I need to do, I need to use a await keyword over here. Await, then get data. So that once this get data promise is resolved, it sends us data loaded into result, and then we will simply print that result. Right? So await pauses the execution until the promise is resolved. That is what we are trying to set over here. So let's simply call that start function, right? And we can comment this for now and run it. You see data loaded gets printed. So here we have used await. That's why we have a async function. Async function means this function is going to have await statement. And why we need await? Because this function is returning a promise, and promise always gets delayed, right? It takes time. It takes some time to for the promise to resolve. And this that's why we have a wait over here. It will wait for this promise to resolve, and then the result gets stored here, and we are printing the result now. So await pauses the execution until the promise gets resolved. And if we see in the older way, right? Let's say, suppose we have this get data, right? That is the function. We see this function is get data, right? Then we have to write dot then. And then is for the promise to resolve, right? If promise gets resolved, then everything gets stored in this data. And then we call it using arrow functions, right? And we start the curly braces, then console.log, and we are printing this data, right? So whatever value is getting stored in data, we are printing that value, and get data is the function that gets called, right? If promise is resolved. And but like this is the older way, right? So but modern way, it's really easy. Like we used one below like this. We have this async function start, and Here we are storing everything in result, or see, let's write here data for easy understanding data, and then we just print the data. So this is more understandable, more easy. We just write async to tell that we have to use await, and then await for this promise to get resolved, and then we simply print it. So this is why async await is preferred in modern JavaScript, right? And error handling, that is very important. So let's write another function async, right? Then function. Suppose we have a function fetch data. Simply, I'm just using any name. You can use any name you want. And what if it's throwing an error, right? Either the promise gets resolved or it can throw a error as well, right? So anything can happen. So what if it's throwing an error? So what we need to do is here we have another function async function main, right? So in main function we have one try block and let result is equals to await fetch data, right? So it is calling fetch data over here, right? And then we will just log the result. Whatever if promise gets resolved, right? Then we will get some result in result variable, right? And we are just printing it simply. That is just if the promise resolved. But what if promise throws some error right here? This promise is no, we know it can throw error as well, right? So what we do is we use try catch block. Catch, it will catch the error, whatever error gets generated, it will simply catch it, and then it will simply log that we caught an error, right? Caught error, and we are simply printing the error over here. Use comma and print the error. That's what we are doing, simply doing over here. And let's call this function. The name of the function is main, right? uh we can comment out this for now, the earlier code. And here, like, see, we know that a promise has three status: either it's pending, or it's resolved, or rejected. And here we saw that a promise was getting resolved, right? Here we are resolving the problem. But there can be another scenario. What if promise is throwing an error, like over here, right? Then we have to handle both, like promise, like resolved, as well as error. So this one is handling both of these, right? So just save it and run it. See, here it's saying, okay, caught error. Okay, I think we just made a mistake. Let me see. This is the error, right? Okay, error is we have to print this one. I am just printing anything. There was some spelling mistake. Let's run it. The caught error, and it's printing the error, right? Caught error, like it's caught the error, and error is error, and then simply it's saying data loaded, right? After some time the problem gets resolved and it's saying data loaded for this one, right? So because we called this one as well. Okay, for easy understanding, let's remove this for now and rerun it. It will just print caught error. That's it, right? And I think that's it for now. And we have covered it. If you understood this, you know you are already thinking like a modern JavaScript developer. And I think we have applied everything we know for the JS, and now it's time for the Playwright automation. If you didn't understand any of this, like, do not panic, need not worry. We will go through each and everything when we will be dealing with Playwright. So best of luck and keep practicing.